Hi guys. So I'm interviewing a good friend of mine who's had plenty of experience in personal communication since she's been working in PR for quite some time now. Hi Jean.
Hi, Wally. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How- Can you explain your background, please?
Sure. I've done a couple of decades, so I'm much older than you guys, um, working in public relations, corporate communications, internal communications, anything communications.
Okay. All right. So, how important is listening to helping build communication skills?
Listening is one of the most important skills that most of us don't have. Half the time, we're trying to figure out what we're going to say before the other person finishes. Think about that. Think about something like Jeopardy or Family Feud, one of those games. If you don't hear the whole question and you buzz in, how can you not get it wrong because you don't know what the whole question is? It's the same in having a conversation. If your boss or your colleague is asking you something and you're already trying to figure out, well, how can I look really smart here? Or how can I impress my boss? And you miss the actual question, then that's going to cause some problems in your communications. So listening is extremely important.
Okay. How about understanding perspective influence your message?
I think between listening and understanding perspective, you have two very important secret weapons.
Okay.
Because perspective means understanding where your audience is coming from, your conversation partner, the person you're in a meeting with, whoever you're talking to, where are they coming from? And I often use what I call my portable perspective machine. This. What do you see?
Hand.
Let's get a little bit more specific here.
Okay. Your palm and your nails.
That's true. Now, what I see is I see the back of my hand and my full fingernail. See, you don't know that I have a French manicure, but I do. So there are details in how I see something versus how you see something. So understanding that perspective is another key way of being able to improve your communication skills. So, for example, if you're talking to colleagues, people that are working with you on a project, you're going to come at them from some details within that project that others don't know. You're going to use words that others may not understand. That's called jargon. But if you're talking to somebody, say your mom,
Okay.
and I often use my mom and dad as examples because who better have I practiced with for more years than you've been alive? I can think the way that they think and say, okay, my mom wouldn't understand that. How do I break it down? Or better yet, when we're writing something, and writing is a big part of communication, we're taught to write to the eighth grade level. Why is that? That's because that's a common denominator. People will understand if you're writing at the eighth grade level versus if you're writing at a collegiate level, which is going to be a little bit more of a complex set of languages. But it's different words, it's different structure of a sentence, it's completely different because you're assuming people know something when you hit more complex levels like that. So if you understand the perspective, then you're going to be able to tell your story a little bit more effectively.
Okay. Definitely. So, how does solving a problem right away help rather than waiting on it or doing it later time when there's maybe more time to do it?
Well, I think it depends on the problem, of course. Everything depends on specifics. However, that said, if you let something fester, if it sits in your mind, it's going to stew, and new details, whether they're true details or not, are going to attach itself to that thought. And so you might make what could be a simple issue, like a mistake made, an utterance that you didn't mean to say, a misunderstanding. It might be something very simple, and all you needed to do was say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, versus I have a really big issue. The boss is going to hate me. I'm never going to get what I needed. I'm really not any good. You just make it more and more complex. So dealing with it right away means that you don't attach all of that noise to it. And you could look at what's the real issue and focus on what the real answer should be. Now, do you address it right away or do you address it in the time that makes more sense? That all comes in how you address the problem in the first place.
Okay, definitely. Um, let's see. How does making sure your employees have all the right tools help improve their personal communication at work?
Well, I think that if you are looking to get a group of people to do something together, say
Okay.
it's a work group, and you've got a project that you need to get done, you need to ask the question, what do you need? And if you can answer that by providing tools, be they templates, if you're writing something, here's the template. If it's software that you need, if you can provide the tools that they need to get the job done, then you're spinning cycles on getting the job done versus how do I do something. So it's really important to have clarity on what you need to do, having a good idea of who's doing what and who's signed up to be responsible for that. What are the timelines that where things are expected to be done?
Okay.
When are you going to deliver it? How are you going to deliver it? These are all tools that help you identify bits and pieces of that project. You often hear us say break it down. If it's a big project, break it down into sizable bites. Well, that's what you're doing. You're breaking it down into those little tools. So everybody has an understanding of what they're trying to do, and you're working as a team to get it done.
Okay. All right. So do you think meeting in person, does it help improve personal communication rather than doing it by phone or by internet or even telling somebody else to do it and saying it to them?
I think it's always important to try and have a personal connection. Sometimes you can do that face to face, and I highly value the face to face communication because the majority of the information that we communicate doesn't come through our words. We tweet, we Facebook, we Instagram, we text. We do a lot of things with words, and we expect that those words are going to get our point across. But words are less than 10% of getting the message across. How we present information, the tone we present, our body language, this is all part of those micro expressions that are talked about in communications. Some things that we pay attention to and some things that we don't necessarily notice because we're on autopilot. That all said, that face-to-face communications is invaluable. Then all the other communications, be it video conference, teleconference, all the different tools we have digitally with email and texting and all the different social media platforms, those are all part of our toolbox for communication. But it's that one-on-one connection that's invaluable. Sometimes you can't get it and you find other ways. I have many people I've worked with over the years that I've only known through video conferencing, but we've figured out ways to work together. Sometimes it's difficult to make sure that you're not being misunderstood, so you have to plan for that and have those meetings where it's just one-on-one, where you can have clarity building, if you will. Yeah, asking somebody how things are going. Do you need anything? Is there something I can do to help you? So you need to plan for those. And in all communications, you need to plan. What is it you need to say? Who are you talking to? And why would it be important to them? And what do you want to have happen at the end?
Okay.
And you can do that face to face and you can do that digitally. But usually face to face, it's a little bit more effective.
Okay, so it's almost like a path somebody helps you with, or like an insight.
Yeah, yes, yes, sort of. I call it your communications toolbox. You have all different ways that you can communicate.
Okay.
You can pull out whichever one is appropriate. If I have a problem with a boss, for example, and I've been working for a few decades, I've had a few problems with bosses. I prefer to go sit down and have a one-on-one with them. I actually prefer to do it over coffee, away from both of our offices, so it's a neutral zone, and we can
Okay.
say something like, I'd like to clear the air, or I'm having a little issue and I need to run it by you.
Putting it out in front, basically.
Getting in front of it, if you will.
Okay.
And by the end of that, my plan is usually, this is what I want to talk about. Then we talk about it, and then I summarize it. Here's what we've talked about. Here are the things that I've agreed to do and the things you've agreed to do. Is that right? Giving them a chance in case I misunderstand them, so that we end that meeting without misunderstanding. Now that format works on a video conference call or a teleconference call as well.
Okay.
But it's all part of your toolbox, and you pull out the tools that are expedient, get the job done, and help you get where you need to go.
Okay, for sure. So going back to one of the questions earlier, kind of relates to this one's. How does emotion and feeling affect communication?
Well, we're all emotional animals. So whether we want to admit to it or not, we are emotional animals.
Okay.
You will hear in somebody's words, feeling words, you know, I didn't like it, or I felt uncomfortable. These are cues, and you get those cues and you understand that they're coming at something from an emotional state, then you know how to switch. So I deal with a lot of crises, and 9 times out of 10, whoever's bringing the crisis to me is at, threat level 5, if you will. They're very emotional.
Okay.
You can't necessarily talk to somebody logically when they're emotional. You need to listen to them. You need to help them process. Sometimes it's just that listening, just letting them process, and they'll work it through. So in the midst of, sorry about that, in the midst of that conversation, you'll hear that those emotional terms will set aside, and the tenor changes, and they're starting to look at how to fix the problem. So by not invalidating, but by validating that we are emotional animals, then we can take emotion out of the equation. If you're upset, I'm going to listen to you. Now, there have been times where I've had to say, I understand this is very upsetting, but we need to deal with this. We need to put this aside. Can you do that? And again, 9 times out of 10, they say yes. We deal with the issue, and then after, we can have that conversation about emotions and how they felt and how they reacted.
So emotions are a big part of it. Definitely a big part of communicating.
Very, very much a part of communicating, and understanding how to manage them is an important part of your communication skill toolbox.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jean. I appreciate all your help. Thank you.